Hello everyone, how's it going? So the latest episode for The Boys is here. This is episode 4. We're at the middle of the final season. And even though I didn't like the previous episode, a lot of people voiced their concerns for that, but I did like this episode. I thought it was well done, crafted, but it felt more like a side quest than the main quest of The Boys. Like, it's essential in a way, like it does give you some really good lore, especially with Soldier Boy and his past, but for the most part, it's average. It does the job. It's definitely better than the previous episode. I know a lot of people hated me for that, but here it's pretty well done. So here's the focus. Here is trying to get V1. The boys want it and Homelander wants it. Ryan survived his encounter with Homelander and he just says, hey, he's still manipulating Ryan, telling him how he's the one thing that's left to fight Homelander, and he's generally afraid that he's just not good enough. Ryan plays off pretty well, despite the fact he got a savage beating from Homelander. He's still hopeful, but I feel like he's just someone who's literally lost everything. He doesn't really have anyone left except Billy in a way, and that's actually pretty sad considering who Billy is. He's literally Homelander, just two sides of the same coin, but he also is becoming wise that he can't trust him, but at the same time, what is he really going to do? As for Noir and the Deep, their relationship is completely destroyed. We do get confirmation that the new Noir, he was method acting, he was not playing it off, and we also see that the Deep is starting to adapt more of Homelander's ideals. For example, we see him eating sushi, and he basically says, why shouldn't I eat the fish of the sea? I'm the lord of the deep, the king of the sea. I should be able to eat whatever I want. I love sushi. This tastes incredible. But he's basically sold out the last ideal he has. But then Noir comes out and just tells him, hey, I thought we were friends. The Deep essentially breaks that friendship off, saying, no, I'm just doing this for myself. You're nobody. And Noir does open a lot of can of worms. He tells him how everyone thinks he's pathetic, how he's an idiot, and he's been defending him this entire time. And yeah, he just completely opens the book of saying, like, you're trying to win over Homelander. What do you think is going to happen when he doesn't need you anymore? Like, Noir is very much aware of what Homelander is capable of. I think he's just doing this in a way that he thinks it's just another job, not realizing if Homelander didn't need him anymore, he would likely just kill him instead of having him as an issue later down the line. But they still do their podcast, and Noir, despite not breaking his method acting, just completely goes off the rails, telling the Deep, yeah, you're just a bitch, you're just an asshole. He just keeps spamming the button over and over, so their friendship is completely cooked. I don't know how much of a friendship they had, but clearly Noir too thought they were friends, and now the Deep is truly alone in this point. As for Ashley, her and her husband, they're kind of just together in the sense that they like being physical with one another sexually, and that's really it. But we find out that he's completely in the red. He's $150 million in debt. Not really sure how you can be $150 million in debt despite being the leader of one of the biggest mega churches in the entire world, being literally married to the vice president. It's just, like, I get the idea. Like, it's literally these people are basically on the verge of bankruptcy if you see how they spend and how they solicit money from people. Let's face it, they're scam artists at their core. But yeah, this all ropes in together with Homelander's ideology. He generally thinks he's a god, and then he just flat out goes to Firecracker and says, hey, you have to tell everyone I'm God. At that point, she realizes how crazy he is. She does also realize that she's probably on the verge of being killed by Homelander and replaced because he smells Soldier Boy on her, and then she gets really defensive, being like, no, we were just in an interview together, showing that she's always been genuinely afraid of him, but at this point, yeah, she should have been aware that he would be actually very annoyed if you slept with him, which you did, and now you have to play defense for it. But yeah, she sees that he's completely crazy, but he's adamant about this. He wants to be seen as God, basically, and she host this type of PR team with Ashley and the rest of the people within Homelander's close PR circle. And eventually she just decides the only way to get Homelander not to see him as God, because one of the ladies, she says no one will accept him as God, or at least only like 27% would, I think, or is that 27% would refuse. Regardless, they all know if they don't, then Homelander would likely go completely ballistic and start attacking people or putting them in more of their camps. So she completely reverses it and says, you know, Jesus was known for forgiveness. He was known for unity, family, all that stuff. Let's do the complete opposite and just turn it into like a political regime where if you're not with us, you're against us. I forgot what they call it, but it's towards the end of the episode, but that's their entire goal. Sage is also here for a little point of the episode. Basically, she's full onto Homelander because she realizes he's completely lost it. There's nothing she can really do, like only by following his orders can she keep alive, at least that's what I'm seeing here. But she also realizes that if he ever got his hands on V1, it would be a global catastrophe. Even she's smart enough to see that, so she manipulates Soldier Boy in a way. She understands he's insecure. He doesn't like Homelander, and the last thing he would ever want is for him to get the immortality that he has in V1. So she flat out tells him where he's going, where the V1 is found, how Stan Edgar helped them. And yeah, the boys the same situation. They're trying to get V1 before everyone else. So where's Annie in all of this? Well, in the previous episode, Annie left Huey because she's afraid of him getting hurt, despite the fact, again, she should know that he's going to keep going forward with this no matter what. But she goes back home. Apparently, she's known where her father is this entire time, and she comes to him for help. At first, he's very just like jolted by the entire situation, and he just starts shoveling snow even faster until finally she just blows the snow away and forces him to talk to her. And we also see that he has a Homelander sign, but he's doing that out of fear. We see that later on, that he's literally just afraid of his family being put into camps. He's not for this. He's actually a very nice guy, and that's saying something for a guy who abandoned his daughter, but we later find out the reason, whether you think it's right or not. I can see it from both perspectives, but he started a new family, married a new woman, has a son, so she has a stepbrother. He's a teenager. And yeah, the mother is actually very nice to Starlight. Apparently he told her about him, and I guess she really just wants her part of the family. She really likes the idea of having a stepdaughter, or she loves her husband that much. But the son, not so much. He's been indoctrinated by all the media websites thinking Starlight is a killer, a terrorist, all those things. And can you blame him? Like, if you blast this 24/7 on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all of this, eventually the younger generations are going to believe everything. And again, what contrarian information do they have? But yeah, it's kind of like the X-Men 2 situation when Iceman comes home and his brother literally thinks he's a danger because he's a mutant. The same situation is here. But yeah, they do have a heart of heart. They talk to each other. It's kind of one of those profound episodes in a sitcom. Just pick your sitcom on a dartboard, like That 70s Show, How You Met Your Mother, Friends, whatever. But it definitely feels like that. She comes to him for advice, and the reason he abandoned his daughter was because he literally could not keep lying to her. It broke his heart. So when they had their kid, they decided to inject her with V in order to give her a life that they never had, because they didn't believe him being a phone repairman would ever be able to continue to give them the life that he felt he wanted to give to his daughter. So they gave Annie V. And whereas their mother played it off as like a gift from God and convinced her daughter Annie that it was, until finally she found out the truth, he couldn't. He knew the truth, and it broke his heart every single time to lie to her, and he felt like one day he would just tell her and it would completely destroy them, so he left. But he never stopped loving Annie. He just felt like he just couldn't look at his daughter and lie to her, and Annie actually does take that answer and believes it, because her mother was lying to her the entire time. She's the one who convinced her that this was the truth and turned her into what we saw in the other seasons as this type of celebrity person, this Christian God who was ordained by God. I don't know how you say it. It's just basically a religious figure in a lot of ways until she found out the truth. So maybe she approves of the honesty above everything else. But later down the episode, when she tries to have a heart-to-heart with her little brother, and eventually he does come around, she connects with him, and Annie's just a very lovable person. But we find out that he called the cops because he thought she was a terrorist. One of their long friends comes to the house. By the way, Annie's dad is now a cop, and they have a kind of standoff. Eventually, they just dismiss anything and leave. The reason is the cop is also scared. He doesn't want to get into a camp. Like, all the people in the neighborhood are just scared of being put into these camps. So eventually, they do stand down, and they go on their way, and Annie leaves. So I kind of want to get the subplots out of the way. They're kind of, they fill out the story, but with Annie, it's just like, she's already done this before. It's kind of like a will they not situation, and I just feel like it's been done. It feels like they're just trying to infuse morality and conflict into every character to make sure that they're in every episode, at least the major characters. But yeah, Annie's entire subplot, it just feels a little weird. It also feels like they purposely removed her because of the main plot line, which I'll get into, which I really enjoyed. So the main plot line is, of course, fine in V1. Soldier Boy teams up with Homelander because Soldier Boy doesn't want Homelander to get it, but Homelander is unaware of that. He thinks Soldier Boy wouldn't give a damn, but they're walking towards the facility. They're having a heart-to-heart in the most, broken way you can possibly have it, where Homelander continues to try and bond with Soldier Boy, and Soldier Boy just completely dismisses him and insults him the entire way, calling him a virgin, calling him all this stuff, in which he does break character and says, look, I've slept with people, I slept with Stormfront, which gets like kind of a look off Soldier Boy, more like, what the hell, how did he do that, or how did he move? It's just like a very quizzical look, like, what the heck. But yeah, he also talks about Madeline, that's her name. So they talk about Madeline and how Soldier Boy banged her, and then Homelander tries to bounce off saying like he did sleep with her as well. And then when he talks about how she died, Homelander flat out lies and says she offed herself, in which Soldier Boy completely calls BS, showing that he knew Madeline better than Homelander, saying that there's no way she would ever do that. She was too proud and too full of herself, in which he said people change. And then again, he's like, there's no way she does that. So he kind of knows that Homelander killed her. Regardless, they're just like kind of at each other's throats. The Soldier Boy does take to heart what Firecracker said about how Homelander does want him to just, be proud of him, but Homelander also dismisses that because he needs to keep up the bravado and everything. As for the boys themselves, they're heading to the facility, but they increasingly get more agitated towards one another. Huey flat out calls Starlight a bitch, saying that she constantly makes it about herself, about everything that's going through. And even Kimiko's shocked by that. It's like, this is so unlike Huey. Even I was caught off guard like that. I was like, is he really going off the deep end at this point? Or is he just like doing something that we're not aware of? Like, it just seems so like unlike Huey to say something like that about Annie. But as they get closer to the facility, they get more and more aggressive until eventually they reach it, and they're full-blown at each other's throats, saying things they would never say in person, things they would keep bottled up deep inside of themselves, but they just start getting angrier and angrier at one another. And you could say this is just them reaching the boiling point with everything that's transpiring, but Frenchie's the only one who's just like, what the hell are you guys doing? Why are you at each other's throats? Until eventually they reach this fungal patch. So leading up to the facility, they find out there are no animals around. At least Kimiko picks it out. There are no animals around. Everything has been like sort of killed on this within the facility. Everyone thinks it's like some sort of apex predator or some of one of Vought's creation, but it's something far worse. So when they get inside into the hallway down the stairs, they see this plant that's grown over the bodies that apparently they all killed each other. And Frenchie, you could see this as kind of a Deus Ex Machina now, or maybe he's just been around this stuff for so long that he just figured it out. I put it on Frenchie just being smart. He figures out that whatever is making them hyper aggressive is caused by these fungus plants, and the V1 seeped into the dirt and infected the plants, causing them to create this pheromone that's making everyone aggressive. They kill each other, then they feast on the bodies. And we also get confirmation that The Walking Dead and The Last of Us are canon to the boys, because Huey's like, so like The Last of Us, and then Frenchie's like, no, more like The Walking Dead situation, which I'm kind of on Huey's side. But regardless, they still refuse to listen to him because the pheromones are so powerful, and they're just starting to just cause them to go completely out of their mind, and they're losing rational thinking, because the second Homelander and Soldier Boy are within like eyesight, they can literally see them. Billy and Mother's Milk decide they want to go and just fight them, in which Frenchie's like, you're gonna get us all killed, what are you doing? It's because the rage in them is just completely consuming them. What I found fascinating about this scene is the fact that Homelander didn't hear them. Like, this is a guy who can literally hear your heart beating. It's someone who can literally see across like entire cities, and you're telling me he didn't see them? Like, you guys could see him, but he can't? Same thing for Soldier Boy. Like, he may have abilities that he may not have the same level of abilities of Homelander, but he can see you. Heck, they made a note that when he met Firecracker, when she was realizing that he was crazy, he could smell Soldier Boy on her after they had sex. So I'm just like, you expect me that they just hindered the abilities of these characters just for this moment so they can have situations like this, because it gets even more crazier. So somehow Frenchie's able to calm them down and get down into the facility as Soldier Boy and Homelander continue to look around, and they have more heart-to-hearts or fist to fist as you look at it, in which Soldier Boy continues to berate Homelander until Homelander just gets he's fed up with it, and he says, I read your classified documents. I know who you are. I know that you were a coward, that you were a prep boy, rich kid who just grew up trying to become better than he actually is, that how they strapped you down and gave you the V1, you were crying for your mommy. And we also get a note that he had a brother who was apparently more of the manly man that he pretends to be, that he had all this glory, had all this incredible admiration, and he wanted to be like him. I think this is the first time we hear of him. His name is Quinn. And at that point, Soldier Boy just has it with Homelander. He kind of lures him into a chamber where they used to test the super soldiers. Instead of using the heat chamber that Homelander was exposed to, this was a uranium chamber. He breaks the valve and traps Homelander inside, knowing full well it'll make him sick and kind of delirious, but he'll eventually break out, maybe in about 10 minutes. But he's also just like, I'm going to go destroy the V1 because I'm not going to make sure you're not immortal. So I'm better than you in that situation. Like when they're walking in the forest, it's kind of hinted that Soldier Boy is jealous of all the abilities that Homelander has. He makes fun of his cape, but when he says, I could fly us there, he literally says, I'm not letting you carry me, showing that he's probably jealous that he can't fly or have these laser visions. In fact, Soldier Boy actually doesn't have a lot of great abilities. Yeah, he's immortal, he's super fast, strong, and all that, but later on in the episode, and I'm kind of skipping ahead, him and Frenchie get at it, and Frenchie makes fun of him, and which feeds on Soldier Boy's ego and chases after him. I'm like, if that was Homelander, he would have literally caught the Frenchie like that, but Soldier Boy literally has to run after him, whereas Homelander literally could just like, boom, dead. That's why I think they had to nerf Homelander in a lot of ways in this episode, because we've seen him break through a lot other things very easily, but here somehow he doesn't hear everyone yelling, he doesn't smell anyone around. They do try to play it off as saying because Frenchie sprayed them with deer piss, that's the reason why they can't smell any of them. He says even though this place smells like deer piss, even Soldier Boy can't smell them, but he can still hear people's heartbeats. He can still see through the facility, or he could at least hear them arguing, because they're arguing very, very loudly. Even Frenchie makes note of it. He's saying, Homelander will hear us, and yet they're yelling at the top of their lung, telling how they're going to kill each other, letting out all these deep, depraved secrets about one another, of how they really feel about one another. Kimiko saying how she feels like tool to Frenchie, that she doesn't need him to translate him for anymore. How Huey doesn't like Butcher, seeing that he's just like Homelander. That sends Billy off the deep end because he knows he's a piece of garbage, but comparing him to Homelander, oh, that's unacceptable. Mother's Milk is the same way. He lets out that him and Butcher came up with the plan that if they find the V1, they're going to destroy it. They're not going to give it to anyone. They're not going to give it to Annie or Kimiko. They plan to kill every single soup in the entire world. So they let out that secret, and it triggers everyone to the point they start to almost kill each other. Kimiko goes into a blood rage. Huey actually shoots Mother's Milk. It's just like this crazy insanity where you're wondering if they're going to kill each other, which obviously they're not. They have plot armor at this point. But yeah, they're doing all these crazy stuff, but for some reason Homelander doesn't hear them. Even when he's in the chamber, I would assume that he was aware of that. But yeah, they're just fighting each other. Frenchie runs around the facility in hopes of trying to calm them down or find what exactly is causing all of this, even though he inferred it was the plants seeping into the dirt. But he finds the cause, and then afterwards he finds Soldier Boy. He accidentally runs into him, but he realizes he's the only one who can kill this thing. So he lures Soldier Boy into the facility, and lo and behold, out of coincidence, it's his brother Quinn, who's been like pushed into the wall and is literally the controller of these roots. We don't know if he's aware of what's going on or not, but he's basically a desecrated body. Soldier Boy instantly recognizes him and says he likes him like this. He starts to yell at him, saying how he won, he's the better man, he's just some sort of corpse on a wall, but I'm stronger, I'm faster, I'm alive, I'm everything. At that point, Frenchie knows Soldier Boy's the only one who could kill this guy, so he starts egging him on. He starts throwing like elementary school insults at him about how you're nothing but a child, he's better than you, you know he's better than you. And I can see how someone could see this as very tawdry, but at the same time, given Soldier Boy's very fragile ego, it makes sense that he would blow a gasket because of this. And he, of course, does. He sends out an explosion that kills his brother, but it doesn't kill anyone else, which makes no sense, because we've seen when he loses control, he literally sends the explosion out everywhere. So you expect me to believe when he's losing it right now, with his anger just filling himself up, that he wouldn't blast it in all directions? He just blasted in this one area. But yeah, He kills his brother. He stops the infection almost instantly, which is not how pheromones work. But everyone just starts to be like, okay, we're sorry, we're all okay, everything is fine. There is a minor scene between Butcher and Homelander when he finds him in the chamber, but it's the same thing we've heard before over and over again. I'm going to kill you, I'm going to be a god, I don't like you. It's literally that the kitchen table scene back in season 3, I believe, only now it's like Homelander doesn't want the scorched earth thing. He just wants to kill Butcher and how he's going to be a god. It's the same thing over and over again. At this point, I think they should just get a room and kiss. But yeah, so he kills his brother, and this is the first time we actually see Soldier Boy remorseful. He actually does say he's sorry. Like, I guess he realizes, even though he was angry at his brother, he was the only person left that he could actually trust. Even if he was just a person on a wall who was likely brain dead, literally that was the last family he had. He literally has no one. And everyone finds out there's no V1. They all escape the facility somehow, despite Homelander literally getting out of the chamber. But I guess he's so sick because he can't do anything. Soldier Boy doesn't care anymore. You can see him waiting in the room, waiting for Homelander. And he literally just tells Homelander to kill him. He's like, just finish it. And which Homelander is just like, no. And just walks away. And that's kind of the episode in a way, because the last part of the episode is Homelander coming out as a god and everyone accepting him because he's the leader of this new political party that's ultra religious. It's basically a political megachurch party at this point. As for the boys, Kimiko and Frenchie break up. I don't really get how they break up. She's like, you thrive in chaos and I can't live with chaos anymore, and I know how much you love it. I'm just like, Frenchie is the opposite of chaos now. Yeah, before he was with his drug addiction and everything, but he's not that anymore. So I'm just like very confused about why they broke up. It's like, I really think they're just setting up Kimiko to die, to have that kind of final hurrah with her like, I love you too, please don't leave me. I think that's what they're setting this up to, but because they have so little time, they kind of just have to shoehorn this type of breakup and just kind of have them reconcile at the last minute. Like, I really think that the end of the series is gonna have them just all die. Like, all the supers are going to die, and the only one is left is like maybe Homelander without his abilities. I think that's what's gonna happen. But it's just a really weird thing of how they break up. And as for Huey and Annie, they come back. She comes back. She says how much she loves him. He says this was the best time for you to leave, which honestly probably just the best time you can think of. And that's the episode. Overall, it's done okay. I think Soldier Boy got the most in terms of character development, because at this point, what is he really living for? Like, he finds his brother is alive, then he kills him, and now he literally has nothing. Like, he kind of broke his trust with his son at this point. Like, I don't think Homelander is ever going to trust him at this point, but even though they had worse interactions, maybe they might, I don't know. But at this point, I feel like Soldier Boy has literally just lost the will to live at this point. Like, he probably realizes he is truly alone. He has no one, or maybe he might find purpose. As for Homelander, completely off the rockers, still gonna look for V1, and that's gonna be him. As for Butcher, when you start to think of the episode, it's kind of just like it happened, and while you do get more information about the characters, it's more or less like you looked up a wiki. Like, you want to know more about the Abyssal Walkers from Dark Souls 3. Type it in, put wiki, and you read about it. That's how I feel about this episode. Maybe I'm wrong, and the next episode will kind of bring it full circle and maybe integrate it more. But the reason I like this episode more than the last episode is because of the big fight between the boys and how they just get all their dirty laundry out there. How Mother Milk actually feels about Butcher, how Huey feels about Butcher, how Kimiko felt about Frenchie for so long. Like, it's really nice to see that you just get all that information in its raw detail. I don't know, I loved it. And the fight scene between them was hilarious, especially Huey hiding in a furnace as he keeps telling Kimiko all these derogatory terms. I'm like, dude, she's literally the only super among you. If she wanted to, she can literally, like, completely she can decimate all of you at this point. Like, she took on Black Noir, the original one. Like, you really think you're gonna take her on? But yeah, I feel like Kimiko was also holding back a lot, because if she was fighting at 100%, she would have killed she would have killed Huey and Mother's Milk easily. Butcher, not so much. I'm pretty sure Butcher would have had the upper hand, but yeah. I just like the fight scene a lot more. I just feel like it was better than the previous episode, and I feel like it offers more context. Maybe it can set up something for the next episode, but we'll have to wait and see. So tell me what you think in the comments below. That's it for me. Bye.